Hey friends, welcome to another edition. One of them words is the correct word. Anyway, welcome to Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. I have a good friend. I won't call him an old friend because I'm actually older than he is. I know that's hard to believe. But my friend Nate, aka Bushy Atchison. How you doing, Nate?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, man.
Bushy. I gotta call you Bushy. That's your guest name.
Well, it's funny because just last week, my girl's never heard so many people not call me by my government name since we've met.
Yeah, she's probably like, "Who's this Bushy guy?"
Yeah, well, she used to listen to my other radio show back when I was able to do one. So she gets it, but she had just never. She doesn't realize that out and about like that, people they they call me Bushy. That's who I am.
Yeah, that's like when I'm out in public and somebody calls me Big Al. It's pretty funny. Uh, it's probably been 15 years or so because I have a new boss. Well, I say I have a new boss. She's been my boss for like 10 years. But one of my coworkers one day called me Big Al in front of my other boss. And he was like, "Why would you call him something like that? That is not very nice." I'm like, "Dude, that's my stage name."
Like, uh-oh,
Oh, and he was just flabbergasted. Yeah.
that's
But
funny.
anyway, I got you on here. We both went to ROCKNPOD in Nashville this past weekend, and I wanted to get your thoughts on how things went down, what your highlights were, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. First of all, can we send a huge congratulations to Tracy McAndrew because I think the event went really well. It was her first time taking the reins. So I think a lot of us didn't know what to expect, didn't know how it was going to go. We had an inkling because it's always successful and gets bigger every year. I think it went really well. So, Tracy, congratulations. I think you did a great job.
Absolutely. Looking
Uh,
forward to the next one.
yes, God, we say that every year, fingers crossed, because we just never know if it's going to happen. Um, I'm really hoping it does. We had a blast, man. I brought my girlfriend along as she's a stone cold country music fan, and not even like good, upbeat, happy country or outlaw country. It's that stuff that makes you want to sit in a corner drinking whiskey and cut your wrists. I mean, just that horrible, horrible country music.
Oh,
The
you mean like the new tractor pop bro country that I play in my country band?
some of that, but the sad thing is even the older stuff is always just the sad, sad. Oh Lord, how do you not stay depressed all the time? Kind of country music.
Well,
And
I
she
can't I
didn't
can't
know.
wait. I can't wait for them to write the country song about the electric car that left.
Yes, I'm still waiting for my Tesla truck who left me yesterday. I'm waiting for that song.
Anyway, I interrupted. Sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, that kind of stuff. So she wasn't sure if she was going to have a good time. She even brought her little Nintendo Switch for the actual day of the event because I'd always told her, look, there's stuff going on beforehand and you're not going to need that silly thing. But the day of, you might, because that day is about business. And, I'm at work, as far as I'm concerned. And Metal Mike and I, my co-host on my show, we had an epiphany. It's like, why are we working so hard and not enjoying this event? So we split up the interviews. He did half, I did half. We met up at the end to interview Don Jameson together, and we both got to go and enjoy the event. So I enjoyed it a lot more this year because I wasn't nearly as busy as I normally am because we made that agreement. We went to Rock and Fest Thursday night. We came in Thursday night, and man, that was great. We saw a real good Mr. Big cover band. I'm not big on cover bands, but they did a good job. We watched Jane and the Killer Queens. They were awesome. The lady that sings with them, man, she's got pipes. Lost Circus, and then I was kind of cross-eyed, Big Al. I had to I had to leave after Lost Circus, so I still haven't seen Blackwood, which upsets me. But hey, it was the first night of Rocket Pod.
You got to pace yourself.
Yeah, we didn't figure that out, and I had forgotten because it'd been a couple years how expensive Nashville is. So we go in and, I left twisted. Thank God she could drive, but she wasn't terrified to drive in Nashville because we live in a small, small mountain town. And I got to say that we absolutely fell in love with Lost Circus. $300 in one night, just in that one venue. So, needless to say, it was an expensive weekend.
That doesn't even count the hotel rooms. Good Lord.
Yeah, or the price of the tickets because to get into the interview pool, you've got to shell out a little extra. And but man, we had such a good time. She had a good time, and I think the thing that made me happiest is that she never took that stupid Nintendo Switch out of the box. Even the day of, when I was busy doing my interviews, she was sitting there and she was just engaged. She was listening. She was interested. None of these guys she knows. I'd have to explain to her who they were. And best example, Erie Vaughn. She cannot stand that band Danzig. Her sister, I guess, just played the hell out of Mother when it came out, so she can't stand that song. But she's like, man, I learned so much about the music industry and what he was talking and how you're not making money. And so she really had a blast, so much so that this country woman wants to come next year. So she keeps making the joke, if you keep me around, I'm coming back.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was an all around good time. They asked me to do something I've never been asked to do before. Back on the ancillary stage, I got to do a live interview. I've never been able to do that before. So that was fun. I got to interview Joey Bro, and I know a lot of people think of him as kind of a gag. He's a joke. I don't think he's a joke. I think he's just living his best life. But I got to do a live interview on stage with him for 20 minutes, in the back of the auditorium and or the expo hall, whatever you want to call it. It went really, really well. Um, because of him not being an actual celebrity, they weren't recording that. So I had her record it on her cell phone, and I was able to rip the video to make an audio. So I could still include that as we're releasing our, Rock and Pod interviews and such.
Right.
But we had a great time. Great time. I love meeting up with all you guys, saying hello, joking around. I mean, I know we got business to take care of because we're all there to talk to these different celebrities, musicians, producers, record label guys. We're there to do that, but man, everybody's on such a first name basis anymore. And she was nervous, but everybody loved her. They welcomed her in, and I tried explaining to her. I said, "Look, this isn't a bunch of beer drinking cowboys. You're not at a hip hop gathering. This is a metal gathering, a rock gathering, and it's just a very different community. It really is. It's very welcoming. And I think she's got the bug because we listened to that Lost Circus, man, for the first hour and a half leaving Nashville Sunday afternoon. She liked him that much that she was playing rock and roll on the way out.
That's right. That's pretty awesome, man. Um, so after you move away from Thursday, we get to Friday and we've got the Rare Hair Show.
Yeah,
What'd you think of that?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I'm not going to lie because I'm a fan of this guy. And I was curious to know, frankly, how good or bad the Joey Bro thing was going to go. Because, yeah, he's not a vocalist. I mean, we can at least be honest about that. And I thought he did a great job, man.
It got some stage moves.
Yeah, he's got the presence and all. Yeah, he's a little off and he's got to read lyrics. So what? That's for me, that's part of his charm. And I videoed his entire performance, and I made the mistake of uploading it on the TikTok. I've got well over 200,000 views on this thing. The trouble is the well over, I can't even count how many negative comments I get on it. People just love to hate on this dude. And I laugh because it's like, you don't realize you're just bumping him up even more. I mean, if you don't,
Right.
you got to not watch them and not say anything because any engagement affects those algorithms and it bumps them up more.
Hmm.
Me, I'm the jerk that likes, comments, and shares every time I see him. A, because I'm a fan, and B, because I really like to get under his skin or get under people's skin rather than can't stand him.
Yeah. You know, I like the fact that the guy is living his best life. It took me until I was in my 50s to start living my best life. You know, I'm in well, like I said earlier, I am in a country cover band, but I'm also now in an emo punk cover band.
Wow.
And that band, we pull a crowd, and I have had more fun. I had to learn the fifth string on a bass guitar. I had to buy a new guitar for this band. But, I've finally got comfortable enough in my own skin that I can get up there and dance around and look a fool and not care.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, worried about what other people think. And I've bbeen good at this for a very long time, and I don't know why. My woman says it's because I'm an asshole. But I don't care what people think. It's like if you like me, great, we'll be friends. If you don't, guess what? I'm gonna go to sleep the same way as I do every other night. It doesn't bother me in the least. I'm not going to give you a second thought. I think that's great. You're playing an emo punk band. I mean, I don't even know what emo punk is. I'm a Dead Kennedys fan, a Sex Pistols fan, things of that nature. So I don't even know what emo punk is.
Well, it's kind of like taking um we do a couple of boy band songs, but they're punked out, they're hard rock. Um
Boy
there's some
band. Am I
80s
on the right show here? Let me check my itinerary.
There are some 80s covers that we do that are punked out. We do covers of Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, stuff like that.
Nice. I bet it
We
is
just
fun.
make it our own.
Yeah, I bet that is fun to play
It
again.
is fun. Yeah.
Dude, see, there's no shame in that. My band, Sweet Jesus. Was it Sweet Jesus? No, it was Fat Dog. Yeah, so we got that name from a porno of all things. But we used to cover Marcy Playground Sex and Candy, the Scooby-Doo theme song of all things, more in a Ramones type style, and the lead singer whose name I can't remember because we didn't last long. We couldn't pull a gig. We had rewrote the Stray Cat Struts Stray Cat Strut, that song. Yeah, whatever that song is. Yeah, the Stray Cat Strut by the Stray Cats. And he completely rewrote it. And I hope I'm not messing up your thing because I'm going to use one bad word. In that one part at the breakdown before you go, up the neck a little bit, he's like, "So instead of fucking you, I thought I'd write this song." That's the only part of that I remember. Before I moved on to a band where we started writing our own stuff and actually playing it out a little bit, getting some bookings. And in Northern New York, there's a big rock scene, Central and Northern New York. So we were able to get out there. And then I had my daughter and all that went away. But man, Friday night, there's some things I had never seen before. Billy Sheehan, I had never seen lead vocals. That
It
was a
was a
lot.
treat.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't remember who the Don Dokken lookalike was. I don't remember his name. He's from the I don't know, Cats and Boots or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with him. He was fun because he'd been having a good time. I guess it's the best way to say it.
I noticed that there was a couple of them that had been having a good time before they got
Yeah.
up on stage.
Yeah. Well, this one in particular, Mindy and I were like, we were almost placing bets. You think he's going to fall off the stage? He'd been having a real good time. But no, I thought the Rare Hair performance was great. Roy Cathy blew me out of the water. I remember seeing him with the Fifth at Kill Fest. I wasn't a fan of that show. There was, man, the sound, whoever was running sound, maybe the venue was bad. I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of that show. But boy, does that guy have some pipes. I mean, good Lord. Come to find out that not only is he with the Fifth, but he's singing in a Boston cover band. And I was like, yeah, well, that makes perfect sense.
Well,
A lot of great talented musicians were on that stage that night. I was just blown away throughout the whole night.
yeah. It was funny because the next day when he come to our table to be interviewed, Roy was like, "Hey man, I got you on video jumping up and down during Hush," and I'm like, well, "You did my favorite Deep Purple song, even though it's a cover.
Right.
You did my favorite Deep Purple song, and that was a grand slam home run as far as I was concerned. That was fantastic."
Same. And I'll tell you why, because that's my favorite Deep Purple song too. Yes, even understanding it's a cover. Any song that has na na na's in it, I love it. Love and touch of squeezing, Favorite Journey song.
Hey Jude.
Don't like the Beatles? Love that song.
You don't like the Beatles? Click. No,
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I have loosened on them a lot, and just in the last couple of years, they have that strange psychedelia, drug-induced stupor that I can't stand. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? But my other favorite Beatles song doesn't make any damn sense. So what do I know?
I
And
am
that
the walrus.
no, Octopus's Garden. I don't know what the
Oh,
hell I was talking about, but I love that stupid song.
yeah. Walrus is my favorite Beatles song.
Nice. I like the '60s pop Beatles. You know, when
Yeah.
they were first coming out, I want to hold your hand, things like that.
See, now I like the Beatles after they got on drugs.
Yeah. See, no. Everyone's like, "Oh man, the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper, it's like this great album." And I'm like, "What are you listening to? It's not good." Title track, love it. After that, I could do without it.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're not on drugs.
Right? I guess.
You know,
I guess
that's kind of the way I feel about Pink Floyd.
right. And see, Floyd, I love.
Yeah.
You know,
That's,
so who knows?
yeah.
I don't like prog music, like I don't like Rush. Go figure.
Right. Now, YYZ, that was Martin Motnick and I think the guy's name is Tyler Warren, maybe the guy that he plays with Queen now.
Yeah.
He also got up there later in the night and played left-handed guitar. But yeah, the three guys that did YYZ, my God,
That
that
was really
was
good. And
I don't even like Rush, and I was like, that's fantastic.
same. I enjoyed it a little bit. I was like, well, I will never say that Rush is not a talented band.
Right.
Ever. Geddy Lee's voice grates on me. I don't know why, because I love King Diamond. But yeah, those guys, they killed it. Not my thing, but again, wow. I mean, they played. And I didn't even know that guy was from Queen until after. And the guitarist, I don't, John maybe was his name. I don't remember his name. The long flowing hair Asian man, what a hell of a
That was
guitar.
John Hurley.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, he was.
But I remember him from last time.
Hmm.
But when he comes out and says, if you'd have told me as a little boy that I would have messed up a Queen intro while playing with a member of Queen, I'd never believed it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
I-
great time, man. You see some really, top of the line musicians. It was a lot of fun.
right. Um, Moving on to Saturday, what was well, first of all, who were some of the people that you interviewed?
I've actually got my itinerary here. We talked to Brian Slago. Metal Mike interviewed him Friday. I let him do that one of Metal Blade Records. I did Joey Bro. He did Cheney Crab of Entheos. If you're into like melodic death metal, man, boy, she's got some growls with some beautiful soaring notes. Bob Chiappardi from Concrete Management, I guess it is. Erie Vaughn, Don Jameson, and I also had Billy Sheehan that day. So we kept it light because it seems like every time Metal Mike and I go, we're like, we got our name and everything, and we get lucky. A lot of them pop up for us. It's like, oh, so that third one in that conference room where we were all crammed in, that kind of broke us because of how hot it was. But we still did a lot the last year in the venue we were just in. But this year we just wanted to tone it down, man. So we grabbed 7 and we were good. We had a wide open day.
Yeah. We did more than 7, but we did a pretty good job. Of course, I had two different tables there because I was also with A to Z Radio.
Right.
But we did a pretty good job of breaking it up. I didn't do any A to Z interviews. I let Speedway Jeff and Lil Willie and Moon Man do all of those, you
Nice.
know, and they took care of doing all of those recordings, so I didn't have to mess with that. And typically, when I'm with the other group, I hit record and I hit stop and I hit save and all of that stuff. But I gave Bill instructions on how to do that this time. So every interview that he did all that himself. So for the first time in the entire time that we've been going to the Rockin' Pods, I actually got to walk around and socialize and not spend all of my time being the technician. So
Yes.
so that was really cool, especially when it come time for me to, oh yeah, Tiffany's here. I need to go see her.
I
Which,
mean,
by the way, I bought this lovely shit show supervisor hat from her. and I got it autographed.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Tiff, I found out at Rare Hair, and it was after the show was over. I think Michelle, Mr. Sinzak's wife, let it leak that Tiffany was going to be there, and we're standing out there, we're kind of BSing with Wadzilla and everything. I was like, wait, what? What'd you say? Tiffany's going to be here because a lot of people don't realize that in the 80s, I listened to a lot of top 40. That's what was playing on the school bus. We didn't have our dedicated rock station up there at the time next to Fort Drum, New York.
Right.
So it was a lot of top 40. That's why a lot of the metal that I like tends to be the hair metal. That's what got played on top 40 radio. So that whole first album, man, I'm a big fan of the first album. After that, I kind of lost, touch with it because I was starting to discover more and more metal stuff. But I was really stoked. And I spent half the day looking for her. Like anytime I would have to leave our booth, I was looking for her. And at one point, I think maybe I had just finished up with Billy. And it was time for Metal Mike to conduct one of the interviews. I think he even had two in a row, maybe. But Mindy and I, we went off to go to the bathrooms and grab a cold drink there at the drink place, the adult beverages. And I saw her, and it's funny, in all the years I've been going to this, I have never geeked out, ever, ever, ever. Not even from year one, because I've met Janie Lane of Warrant walking down the street in Watertown, New York. It's whatever. I've met celebrities. For whatever reason, we're walking by and I see her and I was like, oh my God, Mindy, she's here. Tiffany's here. She's here. So I had to go up there and talk to her a little bit. And, I got a Tiffany hug and, we got our pictures done. And I had asked her if she'd sign that poster later, if she'd come to the booth. She never made it to the booth, but I brought it over to her. She thanked me for doing that and signed it for me. That was probably the biggest highlight of the day for me, simply because it was unexpected. Everything else, I knew what I was going to get. I knew who I was meeting. I knew who I was talking to. Now I might have been surprised by some things, but my highlight was definitely running into, 14-year-old Bushy found his 14-year-old crush.
Yeah.
So that was really, really cool. And I was so happy that she was so sweet because, guys, Tiffany wasn't there, doing any kind of, she wasn't podcasting. She wasn't there as a guest doing interviews. She was there to, sell her brand. Radical Reds is her clothing brand. And she was there. She had a booth there to sell product. So I love the fact that she was nice. It took time to talk to us, hug us, take pictures, and then sign that later without even asking once, do you want to purchase something?
Right.
I really, really enjoyed that. Now, had I not blown all my money Thursday and Friday, maybe I didn't see that hat there. A hat like that would have been great for me because I'm like, oh, but dude, you have chick stuff. She laughed at that, But no, that was probably the greatest thing that happened that day.
So you mentioned that you had some surprises during the day. Do you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's just I guess I never knew, and I found this out through interviewing Billy. I never knew that he was a self-taught musician because I kind of, when I try to talk to these people, I try to get them away from, this album and this producer. And, I try to get kind of away from that kind of thing. I'm trying to get a little more inside the musicianship and things of that nature. To find out that the man was self-taught blew me away because he's one of the greatest bass players in the world. And, so I started really prying on that because I'm like, well, how did you get over your plateaus? Because up until, I guess my daughter was about 6 or 8 months old, I had kind of stagnated there, even with the band I was playing, and we were getting a little bit of a following. But I felt I had stagnated. And, he was telling me ways he can get around that. Now, a lot of it today seems like it'd be so much easier for a musician to get over, a plateau because he's telling me about the tools he has that can slow things down and take out these one parts and, go note for note. And I'm like, well, Christ, it didn't work like that when I was younger, So that was really, really interesting to find these kinds of things out. Maybe he's talked about it before. I had never heard it, so it was all news to me. And I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That's great. You know, and I like to do those interviews like that as well, because I'm sure they get tired of, wanting to talk about David Lee Roth or wanting to talk about Greg Bissonette and uh, Steve Vai. I almost said Joe Satriani. I
Oh,
don't
no.
think he was in that band.
Oh, no. Boy, would that have been killer? Two guitars like that?
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. Did you stick around for any of the events on Sunday?
No, everything was done so different this year where you were buying tickets to every single event that we had kind of opted out of that. Plus, work was Monday morning.
Right.
So for us to stay and then drive 5.5 hours home and then get up, it just wasn't feasible. I hate it because they always, you always get to go hang out with Aaron and them Monday, and I'm never there that long. But we have 3 vacations planned this year. We go to a alternative country and bluegrass festival twice a year. We're going on a cruise, plus we had Rock and Pod. And we had to cut some corners somewhere. I'm hoping next year, if they do it, Tracy do it, that we'll get to stay for the round robin and at least be able to hang out with everybody after the whole event's over with and such. So I didn't get to go to Punchlines and Backlines. Metal Mike was there and he said it was great.
It's always great. I mean, Courtney Cronin does a great job of organizing all that.
Yeah, I've been to one. And that was I think it was the guys from like Ace Frehley's band, a Gene Simmons solo band that were doing it that one year.
Right. That was two rockin' pods ago.
Yeah.
Because the last rockin' pod they had Eric Martin and Craig Gass, Don Jameson, Courtney.
It seems like
I
those
know there were a
works.
couple of others, but I don't remember. But those were also the two punchlines and backlines I went to. And unfortunately, I'd burned through all my vacation time, so I could only take a vacation day on Friday and not Monday as well, or I would have stuck around.
Right. See, when you work 12s, you get a little more time off. And when things fall the right way, you don't really have to take a lot of time. I ate a day, so I was like, I'll just eat that Thursday, not get paid for it, but that's the weekend off.
Hmm.
So it didn't hurt so bad. Now she had to take 2 days. And then, like I said, we've got this cruise coming up at the end of October. We've got the beginning of October, a festival, the end of May, that festival. And now we can get out of that pretty cheap because she works for the lady that runs that. And we can camp there for the whole week for free. It's just taking care of our food and drinks and such. And our golf cart's already paid for because they had to cancel it last year due to the hurricane.
Man, that weather just messes everything up.
Man, I'm telling you right now, if there's a God, he hates Western North Carolina right now because we've just been getting blasted since September 27th.
Yeah.
It's just been miserable out this way.
Wow. So, wrapping up the Rockin' Pod discussion, all in all, I think that it went really, really smooth. I didn't see any real hiccups or anything. I didn't hear anything negative at all about it. And thankfully, there was no drama there. Usually there's at least drama once or twice at
Yeah.
some point in the weekend, and there really wasn't any this time.
Mm-mm.
Everybody was just chill and having a great time.
Yeah, we had a real good time. I had to get on Chris a little bit. It was funny because Chris and Aaron bust their ass at every single rockin' pod. And this was the first time, Chris didn't have to be stressed out running around like a chicken with his head cut off. But they were getting ready to do the Brian Slagle interview up on the main stage. And Chris kind of walks by me and he says, "Have you seen Aaron?" Well, no, I see him. He's got that look. That Sinzak look.
Yeah.
When he's stressed out and something's going on and he's moving at a high rate of giddy up. I said, hey, you're not running shit this year. You're supposed to calm down and enjoy. And he's like, "Man, have you seen Camaro? We're supposed to be up on the stage." I was like, "No, but chill out. I'll go find him for you." And all I had to do was I looked down. He was over there at the Joey Bro booth. I was like, "Chris, he's right over here, Joey Bro. Chill." know? But I was really glad to see that they got to enjoy being a podcast as opposed to, Chris is running around making sure everything's going smoothly behind the scenes, and Aaron's running everywhere making sure all the announcements are being made. I It does my heart, good to know that they got to enjoy basically what they sat down and created.
Right.
So that was great. I loved their little area, the sign that they had made up for him, praising him for making this come to fruition. Because weren't you there the first year at the strip mall?
I've been to every one of the Rockin' Pods.
Yeah, I've only missed one. That was the one at the Nashville Palace. I didn't make that one in 2018. I've been to every other one. The first one I went just as a fan, and since then I've been there as a podcaster. And it's been a great experience on both ends. I always tell people you don't have to be a podcaster to go and enjoy this thing. If you're into this kind of music, and especially if you like these artists, we start finding out a few months in advance, who's coming. Buy the ticket, take some time, and go out there, man. Sit down and listen to what they have to say, because it's a great time. And all these dudes are always nice. I have still, in all the years I've been going, I have not come across a dickhead yet.
Well, some of us have. But that's for another episode. Yeah, I will say the Nashville Palace was probably everyone's least favorite because that venue, they rented the venue and they got everything all lined up, and then once everybody got there, the venue started changing rules on us.
Oh, wow.
So like the podcaster jam we were supposed to do, they pretty well cut that off after two or three songs. Um, this I felt so bad for Chris because it was just like one punch to the gut right after another.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, the
but I
following
do I
year it
do
worked
agree.
out
I
really
was
well.
say that again.
I said the following year worked out really well, though. So
Yeah. Yeah. But I am happy that Chris and Aaron both got to be podcasters since they're, in my opinion, the godfathers of podcasting for the bunch of us that all know each other.
absolutely. I could not agree more. Guys like Chris and Aaron and, Ralph Vieira and Ian Wadley are the reason I even got into this. And I had no desire to do it. I've gone through several lineup changes in this podcast before I found one that worked. And when the guys originally approached me to do this thing, I was like, look, if we're not going to do it, then I don't want to do it. And I don't want to be another review show, because they'd been listening to a lot of rock and metal combat podcasts. And I'm like, are you really going to review an album better than those guys? Are you really going to review an album better than Chris and Aaron when they have the freaking producers on the show? There's no way we're going to do that any better. So let's kind of do something different. And it worked. I had to get rid of a guy within about 8 months because he was very childish, and I just didn't like it, because we would do an album review about once a month. But he was just, look, I'm not one that gets offended. So when I say this, understand I wasn't offended. I was just thinking, okay, we do our monthly record review, and this dude would start screaming into his mic, menstrual cycle, menstrual cycle. And I'm like, okay, dude, what you're going to do is turn off any female listeners we may get. Not that a lot of women, I think, would listen to a metal podcast with the two or the three knuckleheads we were, but they certainly weren't going to do it when you're being offensive to them. So we
Right.
ended up getting rid of that guy. And then just before that third Rocket Pod, where I was able to interview like Michael Sweet, and we got to meet David Ellison and things of that nature, and I got to talk to Kenny Olson from Kid Rock's band. That dude just bailed, just vanished on me, and it took me about a year to find a guy that fits. And we've been going ever since. Now, life likes to get in the way with us. We'll have a hurricane come through, or I'll move from one town to the other, and apparently it takes 6 months to come survey just to get your internet turned on. Things that just drive you up the wall. But we found something that works, that fits, and man, we're looking nowhere but up.
Well, let me interrupt in here because I've got to get a play on words in here. Plug your podcast.
Plug the plug. Yeah, we are the Plug Podcast, music and more with Bushy and Metal Mike. Yes, that's a very long title. That's because after we had chosen the Plug Podcast, well before Metal Mike came along, because he's not a fan of the name, I found out that there were several podcasts called that. So when you go to search it, always the Plug Podcast and whatever, I forget what the word is, but dot, dot, dot. Get what that thing's called. But
Ellipsis?
that's the one. Thank you. But you have to put that in there, music and more, and you'll find us. We load up to Podbean, and then it goes to all the streaming services from there. We're definitely on iTunes. We've started a YouTube channel. We don't have a lot of subscribers there, so the same thing: plug podcasts, music, and more. Please come subscribe. We could use the traffic. Metal Mike does a radio show for craniumradio.com. If you ever want to check him out, Metal Mike show on Friday nights. That's a lot of fun. All subgenres of metal and hard rock. But yeah, we've been having a great time.
Well, how did you come up with the name The Plug Podcast?
I actually put feelers out, and it was actually a millionaire that came up with that name for me. It's a guy. His name's Tim Updegraff. He sold Kirby vacuums. He's out of Buffalo, New York, and had moved to Florida. And because he had after graduating college, he graduates SUNY Buffalo with a criminal justice degree, moves to Florida because of the construction jobs that were down there. But when he gets down there, all of his buddies had gone off to something else. So he had nothing, no prospects, no family, nothing. Answered a Kirby ad. Spent 3 days living in a motel, practicing in front of a mirror. By the time he was running an office up in Watertown, New York, just outside of Fort Drum, when I worked for him, he was worth $5.6 million. He started in 94. My daughter might have been 3 or 4. And he was a millionaire selling Kirby's. I had posted it out there. Hey, starting a podcast. I need a good name for a podcast. And a bunch of names came. The Plug I just kind of like. So I'm like, man, with that, you could really talk about anything. And when you have guests on, that's it. Plug your stuff. Not the best name, but I like it. Now we're at a point where you can't change it because people are actually starting to follow. We can't start over, so we're stuck with it.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, once you get your music issue settled, A to Z Radio is still there for you.
I appreciate that. It's frustrating because with everything going on and storms and people being put out of work due to that, the last thing I've been thinking about is another external hard drive. The nice thing is I do have people that can get me music. I can send it, send the hard drive to them. And all the other ways that we as online internet radio personalities get music, I'll be able to fill that thing up. It's just a matter of getting it. I'm definitely going to go with the SSD this time, the solid state drive, because this is the second time I've had this issue. I actually spoke to some computer experts here in my town, and they wanted to charge me $25 for every 5 gigs if they were able to pull my music and such off of that hard drive. I was like, wait, I got a 2 terabyte. I know I had just under a terabyte. Let's call it 800. It was going to be in the neighborhood of $5,000 to pull my music. I'm like, I'll buy a new one and talk to friends.
Right. All right. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. I just thought it would be fun to chit chat about Rockin' Pod and hanging out and look forward to the next one.
Oh man, I can't wait. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Congratulations to Tracy McAndrew and team. I don't know who works with her, but
Christine Perry. She was the wrangler of the volunteers.
nice. All
Yeah.
I know is they did a great job. I thought, as an outsider looking in, I've been to enough of these things where I can kind of see if it's being successful or not. I thought it went really well. Of course, I'm not the one working numbers and such, but I really hope it did. And I really hope it's something that we're going to do again next year. And I think
Absolutely.
everybody should come.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I will chit chat with you later.
All right, Al. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for listening to Big Al's Rockin' Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast outlet. Visit BigAlRocks.com to find past episodes, on-demand links to my radio show, links to my social media, and other Big Al shenanigans. Most importantly, please like and share this episode. Peace out.